Did Elvis really record one of his biggest hits while lying on the floor? Was his first ever record a complete accident? A song he wasn't even supposed to sing? And what does a French love song from the 1700s have to do with the closing of every Elvis concert in the 1970s? Some song intros are just a few notes. But for Elvis Presley, a few notes were all it took to make history. You hear them, and you know. You just know. There's no mistaking it. It's the sound of a cultural shift. It's the sound of a legend. These aren't just song intros. They are time machines. They take you back to a specific moment, a specific feeling. Let's look at 22 of them. Number 22. Why did this song cause so much trouble? Mickey Newbury, the man who wrote An American Trilogy, initially despised Elvis's version. The song, a staple of Elvis's 1970s concerts, never cracked the top 40 in the United States, peaking at a disappointing number 66 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1972. The arrangement that Elvis used wasn't even created for him. It was written by the conductor, Joe Guercio, for a different singer entirely. The song itself is a medley of 3 distinct 19th century tunes with deeply conflicting histories. You hear that single, mournful flute. It plays the opening notes of Dixie. There's nothing else, just that simple, clear melody hanging in the air. It's a sound that is immediately recognizable and loaded with history. It's quiet, almost reverent, and then the orchestra swells, the choir comes in, and the sound builds into something huge, something epic. That intro is pure showmanship. It's the sound of Las Vegas Elvis in his prime. The song An American Trilogy is a fascinating piece of musical engineering. Songwriter Mickey Newbury took 3 songs from very different American traditions and stitched them together. The first is Dixie, a song written in the 1850s that became the unofficial anthem of the Confederacy. The second is All My Trials, an African-American spiritual, a song born from slavery and hardship, with its roots in the Bahamas. The third is the Battle Hymn of the Republic, the great anthem of the Union Army during the Civil War. To combine these 3 was a bold, even controversial move. Newbury did it in 1971, a time of deep division in America. He wanted to show how these conflicting histories were all part of the same American story. When Elvis decided to perform it, he took that statement to a global stage. The intro, starting with Dixie, was a deliberate choice. It was a way of acknowledging a painful part of history before moving toward a theme of unity with the other 2 songs. Joe Guercio, Elvis's musical director, was the man behind the grand arrangement. He first used it for singer Jackie DeShannon. When Elvis heard it, he knew he had to sing it. The recording session for the studio version took place in February 1972 at RCA's Hollywood Studios. The version most people know, however, is the live one from the 1973 Aloha from Hawaii concert. In that performance, the intro is even more powerful. You can feel the anticipation of the crowd. The flute, played by a member of the orchestra, is stark and lonely. Then the drums, played by Ronnie Tutt, kick in with a military snare roll. It's a call to attention. The brass section joins, and then the full orchestra and choir. By the time Elvis starts singing, "Oh, I Wish I Was in the Land of Cotton," the sound is immense. It was a perfect opening for a song that was more of a theatrical event than a pop single. That might explain why it performed better on the UK charts, where it reached number 8, than in the US. It was a piece of performance art, and that haunting flute intro was the curtain going up. Number 21 was this Elvis's last real rocker. Elvis recorded the vocals for Burning Love while lying on his back on the studio floor. The songwriter Dennis Lindy, who recorded it first, saw his own version fail to chart. Elvis was reportedly reluctant to record the song, thinking it wasn't a good fit for him at the time, and it took some convincing from his producer and friends to get him to even try it. The song became Elvis's 40th and final top 10 hit in the United States during his lifetime. The intro is unmistakable. It's not a guitar. It's not a piano. It's a bass guitar. Emory Gordy Jr. lays down a thick, fuzzy, driving riff that repeats, building energy. It's joined by a tight, funky drum beat from Ronnie Tutt and crunchy electric guitars. It's aggressive. It's raw. It doesn't sound like a ballad. It doesn't sound like a gospel song. It sounds like rock and roll. And for Elvis, in 1972, that was a big deal. After years of movie soundtracks and a shift toward big orchestral ballads, Burning Love was a jolt of pure energy. It was a throwback to the kind of music that made him a star in the first place. The song was written by Dennis Linde, a Nashville songwriter who had a knack for great hooks. His original version was a bit more country rock, but when it got to Elvis, producer Felton Jarvis saw its potential. The recording session took place on March 28, 1972, at RCA Studio C in Hollywood. The band was on fire. James Burton and John Wilkinson were on guitars, but the star of the intro is Emory Gordy Jr. on bass. His riff is the engine of the song. It's so powerful that the rest of the band just locks into it. The session was reportedly a lot of fun. Elvis was in a great mood, joking around, but when it came time to sing, he was all business. The story goes that he was so into the performance that he ended up on the floor, belting out the vocals. The intro is incredibly effective because it's a loop, it's a riff that could go on forever, and it creates a sense of tension. When Elvis finally comes in with Lord Almighty, I feel my temperature rising. It's a release. The song just explodes from there. It was exactly the kind of record RCA wanted from him. They were looking for a hit, something to compete with the harder rock sounds of the early 70s. Burning Love was it. It shot to number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. It was kept out of the number 1 spot by Chuck Berry's My Ding-a-Ling. It was a huge commercial success and a creative one too. That bass riff is a promise. It promises a high energy, no nonsense rock song. And the song delivers. Number 20, how did a song about death become a concert staple? The famous live version of The Wonder of You was recorded on February 18th, 1970 during a dinner show at the International Hotel in Las Vegas. Elvis had never rehearsed the song with his band. He decided to perform it on the spur of the moment, working out the arrangement live on stage. The song was not an Elvis original. It was written by Baker Knight and first recorded by Ray Peterson in 1959, whose version was a top 40 hit. Elvis's version outsold the original by a massive margin, becoming a number 1 hit in the UK for 6 weeks. The intro starts with a simple, clean guitar line from James Burton. It's a classic country-style lick. And then the piano comes in, playing gentle chords. A string section swells softly in the background. It's a classic setup for a ballad. It's warm, it's inviting, and then you hear the sound of the live audience, the clinking of glasses, a murmur of conversation. That's the key. This isn't a sterile studio recording, this is an event. And then Elvis speaks, his voice calm and clear over the music. You gave me a thrill. The Wonder of You became one of Elvis's signature 70s songs, but its journey to him was a long one. Ray Peterson's 1959 original was a solid hit, but it had a very different feel. It was more of a standard pop ballad of the era. When Elvis decided to cover it, he transformed it. He was deep into his first Las Vegas residency, a period that redefined his career. He was performing 2 shows a night, and he liked to keep things fresh. On that night in February, he just decided to do the song. The story from the band members is that he turned to them on stage and just started singing it. The TCB band, being the incredible musicians they were, just followed his lead. James Burton on lead guitar, Jerry Sheff on bass, Ronnie Tutt on drums, and Glenn D. Harden on piano. They figured it out in real time. You can hear the spontaneity in the recording. The intro sets the scene perfectly. James Burton's guitar playing is, as always, tasteful and melodic. He establishes the song's key and mood in just a few notes. The addition of the strings and the Imperials Quartet on backing vocals gives it that grand Las Vegas sound. But it's the live atmosphere that makes the intro so special. You're not just listening to a song, you're in the room. You're at the International Hotel watching the King on stage. RCA knew they had something special. They released the live recording as a single, and it was a massive international hit. In the UK, it was one of his biggest ever. It connected with people because it felt real. It wasn't overproduced. It was a snapshot of a moment. The intro is the sound of that moment beginning. It's the sound of a master showman taking control of a room and creating something magical out of thin air. It's the perfect blend of intimacy and spectacle. Number 19, Could Elvis Feel the Rain on His Skin? The iconic string and horn arrangement for Kentucky Rain was not part of the original recording session. It was overdubbed later in Nashville. The song's writer, Eddie Rabbitt, was a struggling songwriter at the time and was working as a truck driver when he got the news that Elvis was going to record his song. Ronnie Milsap, who would later become a country superstar himself, played piano on the track and came up with the thundering piano part that drives the song. The sound of thunder on the record is not a sound effect. It was created by the musicians in the studio. The intro begins with a powerful rolling piano line. It's dark and dramatic, like storm clouds gathering. You can hear the low notes rumbling. Then a bass guitar enters, playing a simple, steady pattern. A shaker provides a rhythm that sounds like falling rain. And over the top you hear Elvis's voice, almost a whisper, filled with desperation, walking in the rain. Kentucky Rain is a masterpiece of storytelling. It's a mini-movie in 3 minutes, and the intro is the opening scene. It sets the mood perfectly. The song tells the story of a man searching for a woman who has left him, walking through a cold Kentucky rain. The music reflects his state of mind. It's stormy, it's urgent, it's a little bit desperate. The song was recorded in February 1969 at American Sound Studio in Memphis. This was a hugely important period for Elvis. He was fresh off the success of the '68 comeback special and was recording some of the best material of his career. The studio's house band, known as the Memphis Boys, provided a gritty, soulful sound that was a perfect match for Elvis. The session for Kentucky Rain was intense. The key element of the intro is the piano, played by Ronnie Milsap. His playing isn't just accompaniment, it's a character in the song. It is the storm. The way he plays those rolling chords creates a sense of constant motion, of a man trudging endlessly through the rain. The rhythm section of Tommy Cogbill on bass and Gene Chrisman on drums locks in with him, creating a relentless groove. The production by Chips Moman is brilliant. He knew how to create atmosphere. The shaker, the subtle guitar fills from Reggie Young, and later the strings and brass all add layers to the story. But the intro is all about that piano and Elvis's voice. When he comes in, his voice is raw with emotion. You believe he's out there, cold and wet, searching for someone he loves. The song became a top 20 hit in 1970. It remains one of his most beloved story songs. That intro is the reason why. It doesn't just start the song. It starts the story. It puts you right there in the middle of that cold Kentucky rain. Number 18, Why Does This Song Never End? The famous fade out and fade in ending of Suspicious Minds was a complete accident, a mistake made by the producer. Elvis's vocal on the master take was so powerful that it bled into the other microphones in the studio, making it impossible to separate and mix properly. The song was written by Mark James, who also wrote Always on My Mind, but his own recording of Suspicious Minds was a commercial failure. It took Elvis over 8 hours and numerous takes to get the song right during his legendary 1969 Memphis sessions. The intro is electric. A crisp, clean electric guitar riff, played by Reggie Young, kicks it off. It's a simple, catchy, descending line. Then the bass and drums come in, locking into a mid-tempo groove that feels like it's pushing forward. A Wurlitzer electric piano adds a soulful texture. It's a sound that is pure 1969 Memphis soul. And then after a few bars, you hear the strings and horns swell, adding a layer of drama. It's an intro that builds anticipation. You know, something big is coming. Suspicious Minds is arguably Elvis's greatest 70s recording and maybe one of his greatest ever. It became his 18th and final #1 hit in the United States. It was the centerpiece of his triumphant return to the top of the charts. The recording sessions at American Sound Studio were producing incredible music, and this song was the crown jewel. Songwriter Mark James had released the song a year earlier, but it went nowhere. When Chips Moomin, the head of the studio, played it for Elvis, he knew it was a hit. The band, the Memphis Boys, created a sound that was both tough and polished. Reggie Young's guitar riff is the hook. It's instantly memorable. It's the kind of riff that gets stuck in your head for days. The recording itself was a marathon. They started around 4 a.m. and worked until after sunrise. Elvis was determined to get it perfect. He poured everything he had into the vocal performance. You can hear the passion, the frustration, the pleading in his voice. The song's unique time signature changes, shifting from 4/4 in the verses to a slower 6/8 feel in the bridge, add to the drama. But the most famous part of the song is the ending. Producer Chips Moomin had a habit of creating a false fade at the end of his productions, then bringing the music back with full force. He did it on Suspicious Minds, but when he sent the tape to RCA, they thought it was a mistake. An engineer in Nashville nearly edited it out. Thankfully, Elvis and his team insisted it stay in. It became the song's signature. That false ending, where the song seems to die away before roaring back to life, mirrors the song's theme of a relationship that just can't end. The intro is the perfect setup for all of this drama. It's confident, soulful, and stylish. It's the sound of an artist who is back on top of his game, ready to reclaim his throne. It's the sound of a classic being born. Number 17 was Elvis afraid to record this song. Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's manager, was strongly against him recording In the Ghetto, believing a message song about poverty and social issues would alienate his core audience. The song was written by Mac Davis, who was inspired by his childhood friendship with a black boy who lived in a poor part of Lubbock, Texas. And Elvis recorded his vocal in a single take, a testament to his emotional connection to the song's story. It was Elvis's first top 10 hit in 4 years, signaling a major artistic comeback. The intro is delicate and haunting. A single acoustic guitar, played with a gentle finger-picking style, creates a somber, folk-like melody. It's a simple, repeating pattern. The notes are clean and clear. There are no drums, no bass, just that lonely guitar. It feels intimate, like someone is about to tell you a story, and then Elvis's voice comes in, soft and serious as the snow flies. In the Ghetto was a huge risk for Elvis in 1969. He had spent most of the 60s making light-hearted movie musicals. His music was seen as safe, escapist entertainment. A song that directly addressed the cycle of poverty and violence was completely out of character. Everyone in his inner circle, especially Colonel Parker, told him not to do it. They were worried it would be bad for his image, bad for business. But Elvis felt a connection to the song. He grew up poor in Tupelo, Mississippi, and later in Memphis. He understood the struggle. He insisted on recording it during his sessions at American Sound Studio. The songwriter Mac Davis was in the studio when Elvis recorded it. He was blown away by the performance. The intro is a brilliant piece of arranging. By starting with just the acoustic guitar, it immediately sets a different tone from his other records. It's not rock and roll, it's not a big ballad, it's a folk song. It draws the listener in, forcing them to pay attention to the words. The guitar work, likely by Reggie Young or Mac Davis himself, is subtle and beautiful. It creates a mood of melancholy and reflection. The production by Chips Moomin is perfect. He keeps it simple at the beginning. As the story unfolds, he gradually adds more instruments, bass, drums, strings, a choir. The song builds in intensity, mirroring the tragic life cycle of the boy in the story. But it all starts with that simple guitar intro. When the song was released, it was a smash hit. It went to number 3 on the Billboard charts. The public embraced it. It showed a side of Elvis that people hadn't seen in a long time, the serious artist, the concerned citizen. It proved the Colonel wrong. The intro is the first clue that you are about to hear something different, something important. It's the sound of Elvis taking a chance and succeeding brilliantly. Number 16, what did a dream have to do with a national tragedy? If I Can Dream was written in a matter of hours as a last-minute replacement for a different song planned for the finale of Elvis's 1968 NBC television special. The song was directly inspired by the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., which had happened just 2 months before the special was taped. Elvis was so moved by the song's lyrics that he reportedly cried when he first heard the demo. His performance of the song on the special is considered by many to be one of the most passionate and powerful of his entire career. The intro is pure drama, a powerful orchestra sting hits you right away. Then, a driving drum beat, punctuated by tambourine, kicks in. A bass line throbs underneath. It's a sound full of urgency and importance. It doesn't sound like a pop song. It sounds like the opening of a symphony or a movie score. It grabs your attention immediately and holds it. Then Elvis's voice cuts through, filled with an almost desperate passion. There must be lights burning brighter somewhere. The '68 comeback special was a make-or-break moment for Elvis. His career was in a slump. He needed to prove that he was still relevant. The original plan for the show's finale was for him to sing a schmaltzy Christmas song. The show's director, Steve Binder, and the musical director, Billy Goldenberg, thought this was a terrible idea. They wanted a song that said something, a song that reflected the turbulent times of 1968. The show's songwriter, Earl Brown, was tasked with writing it. He and Elvis had been talking about the recent assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy. Elvis had expressed his sadness and his hope for a better world. Brown took those conversations and turned them into If I Can Dream. The lyrics are a direct plea for peace, understanding, and hope. When Elvis heard the song, he was completely overwhelmed. He said, "I'll do it. I'm never going to sing another song I don't believe in." The recording session was legendary. The studio orchestra and the vocal group The Blossoms were there. Elvis performed the song take after take, pouring more and more emotion into it each time. For the final take, they turned out the lights in the studio. Elvis got down on his knees on the floor and sang his heart out. The raw power of that performance is what you hear on the record. The intro is a perfect reflection of that intensity. It's big, it's bold, and it's serious. It announces that this is not just another song. The orchestral arrangement by Billy Goldenberg gives it a weight and a gravity that a simple rock band couldn't achieve. It's designed to be theatrical, to be a showstopper, and it was. His performance on the TV special, dressed in a white suit, standing in front of giant red letters that spelled his name, is an iconic moment in television history. That powerful, dramatic intro was the sound of his rebirth as a vital contemporary artist. It's number 15, How Did a Jerry Reed Song Define a Comeback? The opening guitar riff of Guitar Man was not played by Elvis's longtime guitarist Scotty Moore, but by the song's writer himself, country legend Jerry Reed. Elvis loved Reed's original record so much that he insisted on having Reed play on his version, but the producer had trouble getting Reed's distinctive claw-style guitar sound right. After hours of failed attempts with session musicians, they finally called Jerry Reed in the middle of the night and flew him to Nashville to play on the track. The song was a commercial flop when first released in 1967, failing to even make the top 40. You hear that funky, syncopated, nylon string acoustic guitar. It's a sound you can't mistake. It's a picking style that's both percussive and melodic. It's complex, it's bluesy, it's got a deep country swing to it. It's the sound of Jerry Reed. The guitar is completely alone for the first few bars, establishing the rhythm and the feel of the song. It's an intro that is all about one instrument and one man's unique talent. In 1967, Elvis was deep in his movie-making period, and his records were suffering. He was looking for better material. He heard Jerry Reed's Guitar Man and fell in love with its swampy, authentic sound. He decided he had to record it. The session was booked at RCA Studio B in Nashville. The producer, Felton Jarvis, assembled some of Nashville's best session players to replicate Reed's sound. They couldn't do it. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't capture the magic of Reed's playing. His style, a thumb and finger claw hammer technique, was completely unique. After hours of frustration, Elvis finally put his foot down. He told the producer to get Reed in here. So they tracked down Jerry Reed, who was out on a fishing trip. They convinced him to come to the studio. Reed walked in, and Elvis, his hero, was there. Reed plugged in his distinctive Baldwin classical electric guitar, and in a couple of takes he nailed it. The intro you hear is the sound of a master musician doing what only he can do. It's not just a series of notes, it's a whole mood. It sets up the story of the traveling musician perfectly. While the single didn't do well in 1967, the song had a second life. When Elvis was planning his '68 comeback special, he knew he wanted to open the show with something that declared his return to his roots. Guitar Man was the perfect choice. The opening sequence of the special features that Jerry Reed riff playing over a montage of Elvis's early career. It was a statement. It was him saying, "I'm back. I'm the Guitar Man." That intro, once a forgotten detail on a failed single, became the sound of his triumphant return. Number 14, was this song too strange for a movie? The original 1968 version of A Little Less Conversation was recorded for the movie Live a Little, Love a Little, but it wasn't a major hit, stalling at number 69 on the charts. The song features a female vocal group, The Blossoms, whose lead singer was Darlene Love. The famous 2002 remix by Junkie the 40th JXL, which became a global #1 hit, was based on a later, faster re-recording of the song that Elvis did for his '68 comeback special, a version that was never actually used in the broadcast. The intro to the original is pure late 60s funk. A fuzzed-out, biting electric guitar plays a choppy, rhythmic riff. A clanging cowbell and a tight drum beat from Hal Blaine lock in with it. Then a funky bass line drops in. It's busy, it's groovy, and it's a little bit chaotic. It's a much harder, grittier sound than most of Elvis's movie songs. The whole thing has a nervous, urgent energy. By 1968, Elvis was tired of the formulaic movie songs he was being given. He was looking for something with more edge. A Little Less Conversation, written by Mac Davis and Billy Strange, was a step in that direction. The song's arrangement is aggressive and modern for its time. The use of fuzz guitar, the prominent cowbell, the call and response vocals with the Blossoms. It was a world away from Puppet on a string. The session for the movie version took place in March 1968 at Western Recorders in Hollywood. The band was part of the legendary Wrecking Crew, a group of top Los Angeles session musicians. Hal Blaine on drums, Larry Knechtel on bass, and Al Casey on that fantastic lead guitar. The intro is a perfect example of their tight, funky chemistry. Casey's guitar riff is the main hook. It's not a smooth, melodic line. It's a rhythmic weapon. The song was used in the movie in a scene where Elvis's character is being chased by his love interest's Great Dane. The frantic energy of the music matches the comedic chaos of the scene. However, when it was released as a single, it didn't connect with the public. Perhaps it was too different from what people expected from an Elvis record at the time, but Elvis still believed in the song. He re-recorded it a few months later during the taping of his '68 special. That version was even faster and more frantic. It's this version that Junkie the 40th used as the basis for his massive 2002 hit, but the original 1968 intro stands on its own. It's the sound of Elvis breaking out of his pop shell and embracing the funk and soul sounds of the late 60s. It's raw, it's energetic, and it's a sign of the great things that were to come. Number 13, did Anne Margaret outshine Elvis? The recording sessions for Viva Las Vegas were reportedly tense, with a strong rivalry developing between Elvis and his co-star, Anne Margaret, both on and off the screen. The song features an unusually high number of drummers for a 1963 recording. At least 3 percussionists, including DJ Fontana and Hal Blaine, are playing on the track. Despite being one of his most famous and enduring songs, Viva Las Vegas was never a major chart hit, failing to even make the top 20 in the US. It was released as the B-side to What I Say. The intro is an explosion of sound. A frantic, strummed acoustic guitar starts it off, playing at a breakneck pace. Then the drums come crashing in, a full-on rock and roll beat. An electric guitar plays a sharp, twangy riff. The whole thing is a wall of energetic, chaotic noise. It sounds like a party that's already in full swing. It's pure, unadulterated excitement, the perfect musical representation of the city of Las Vegas itself. Viva Las Vegas, the song and the movie captured a moment in time. Las Vegas in the early 60s was the capital of cool, and Elvis was its king. The song was written by the great Doc Pomus and Mort Schumann, the team behind hits like Save the Last Dance for Me. They knew how to write for Elvis, and they crafted a perfect anthem for him. The recording session took place in July 1963 at Radio Recorders in Hollywood. The band was a mix of Elvis's regular players and some of the Wrecking Crew. Scotty Moore was on guitar, but it's the rhythm section that really drives this track. The combination of multiple drummers gives the song its incredible power and drive. It's relentless. The intro is designed to grab you by the collar. The fast acoustic guitar strumming creates a sense of breathless anticipation. When the full band kicks in, it's like a shotgun blast. The energy level is at maximum from the very first second, and it never lets up. Elvis's vocal performance is one of his most energetic. He's shouting, he's whooping, he's having the time of his life. You can hear the fun in his voice. The song's relatively poor chart performance is a mystery. Part of the problem was RCA's decision to promote the A-side, a cover of the Ray Charles classic, What'd I Say? But over time, Viva Las Vegas has become one of Elvis's most iconic songs. It's synonymous with the city it celebrates. It's used in countless movies and commercials. It's the song you hear in your head the moment you think of Las Vegas. That explosive intro is the reason. It's a jolt of pure adrenaline. It's the sound of a city with no closing time. Number 12. Why was a saxophone so important? The distinctive saxophone solo that opens Return to Sender was played by Boots Randolph, a legendary Nashville session musician who also played the famous sax part on Brenda Lee's Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree. The song was written by Otis Blackwell and Winfield Scott, the same team that wrote All Shook Up and Don't Be Cruel. The U.S. Postal Service briefly considered using the song in a promotional campaign in the 1990s, but ultimately decided against it. The song kicks off with a bouncy, playful saxophone riff. It's a short, catchy phrase that instantly sets a lighthearted, fun tone. The sax is quickly joined by a shuffling drum beat, a walking bass line, and a boogie-woogie style piano. It's a classic early 60s rock and roll sound, but with a pop-friendly twist. The whole intro is upbeat and impossible not to tap your foot to. It's the sound of pure, simple fun. Return to Sender came from the 1962 movie Girls, Girls, Girls. It was one of the few truly great songs to emerge from his movie period. It was a well-crafted pop song with a clever story and a great hook. The songwriters, Otis Blackwell and Winfield Scott, were masters of their craft. They knew how to write a hit, and they knew how to write for Elvis. The recording session took place in March 1962 at Radio Recorders. The band included Scotty Moore and Tiny Timbrell on guitars, Bob Moore on bass, DJ Fontana and Hal Blaine on drums, and Floyd Kramer on piano. But the star of the intro is Boots Randolph on sax. His playing is full of personality. It's not a wild, screaming rock and roll sax. It's a controlled, melodic, and incredibly catchy performance. The riff he plays is as much a part of the song's identity as the vocal melody. The intro is a perfect example of how an instrument can set the entire mood of a song in just a few seconds. The saxophone gives the song a slightly R&B flavor, connecting it to the roots of rock and roll, but the clean production and the pop structure make it perfect for top 40 radio in 1962. It was a massive hit, reaching number 2 in the US and number 1 in the UK. The song's story about a guy whose letters to his girlfriend keep getting returned is charming and relatable. The music perfectly matches that lighthearted tone, and it all starts with that sax. It's a happy sound. It's a sound that makes you smile. In an era when Elvis was making a lot of forgettable movie music, Return to Sender was a reminder of how good he could be when he had the right material. That cheerful, unforgettable saxophone intro is a big reason why. Number 11. How did a French song from 1784 become an Elvis anthem? The melody of Can't Help Falling in Love is based on a classical French love song called Plaisir d'amour, composed in 1784 by Jean-Paul Egide Martini. Colonel Tom Parker initially hated the song and fought against its inclusion in the movie, Blue Hawaii, thinking it was too slow and downbeat. It took 29 takes for Elvis to get a version of the song that he was happy with during the recording session. The song became the closing number for virtually all of his live concerts from 1969 until his death. The intro is magical. A delicate bell-like instrument plays a simple, arpeggiated melody. It sounds like a music box. It's gentle, it's romantic, and it's instantly recognizable. That instrument is a celeste, played by the great Nashville pianist Floyd Kramer. After a couple of bars of the celeste, the Jordanaires come in with their soft, hooing backing vocals. The whole intro is incredibly simple, but also incredibly effective. It creates a mood of quiet, tender romance. Can't Help Falling in Love is one of the definitive Elvis ballads. It's a song that has transcended its origins in a lighthearted movie to become a timeless standard, played at weddings and anniversaries around the world. The song's writers, Hugo Peretti, Luigi Creatore, and George David Weiss, were tasked with writing a ballad for the film Blue Hawaii. They found their inspiration in the old French melody. The recording session took place in March 1961 at Radio Recorders. And Elvis was reportedly very particular about how the song should sound. He wanted it to be gentle and sincere. The band, including Scotty Moore on guitar and DJ Fontana on subtle brush drums, played with incredible restraint. But the key elements of the intro are Kramer on the celeste and the Jordanaires. The celeste, a small keyboard instrument that strikes metal bars with hammers, has a unique ethereal sound. It was the perfect choice to create the song's dreamlike atmosphere. Despite the Colonel's objections, the song was released as a single and became a huge hit, reaching number 2 in the US. But its true legacy was cemented in the 70s. When Elvis returned to live performing, he chose Can't Help Falling in Love as his closing number. The lights would dim, he would sing this beautiful, intimate song, and then the announcer would famously declare, "Elvis has left the building." That gentle music box intro became the signal that the show was coming to an end. It was a moment of connection between Elvis and his audience, a quiet thank you after all the rock and roll energy. It's a sound that is forever linked with the legend of Elvis in his prime. It's the sound of a perfect love song and the sound of goodbye. Number 10, was this song a joke? The spoken word recitation in Are You Lonesome Tonight was not part of the original 1926 song. It was added in a later version and is a loose paraphrase of a speech from Shakespeare's play As You Like It. Elvis recorded the song as a personal favorite of Colonel Tom Parker. It was his wife's favorite song. During the recording session, just before the final take, Elvis turned off all the lights in the studio to create a more intimate atmosphere. The famous lawing version of the song, where Elvis breaks into uncontrollable laughter during the spoken part, was recorded in 1969 and became a surprise hit in the UK in the early 1980s. The intro is pure, old-fashioned pop. A softly strummed acoustic guitar establishes the waltz-like rhythm. A gentle piano, played by Floyd Kramer, enters with a simple, melodic line. And then, the unmistakable sound of the Jordanaires singing a beautiful, multi-part harmony. It's a sound that is sweet, nostalgic, and a little bit sad. It immediately transports you back to a different era, a time of parlors and crooners. Are You Lonesome Tonight was a radical departure for Elvis in 1960. He had just returned from the army and was eager to show that he was more than just a rock and roll singer. He wanted to be a true all-around entertainer like his heroes Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra. This song was a perfect vehicle for that. It was a classic Tin Pan Alley ballad, first written in 1926. The recording session took place in April 1960 at RCA Studio B in Nashville. It was a late-night session and the mood was relaxed. Elvis was in great voice. Producer Chet Atkins and engineer Bill Porter worked to create a clean, intimate sound. The idea to turn out the lights was Elvis's. It helped him get into the character of the lonely man in the song. The intro is a masterpiece of arrangement. The combination of the acoustic guitar, the piano, and the Jordanaires' vocals creates a lush, romantic backdrop. It's very different from the raw energy of his 50s recordings. This is polished, professional, and aimed squarely at an adult audience. The Jordanaires in particular are crucial to the song's sound. Their harmonies are so tight and so beautiful that they are an instrument in themselves. The song was a massive success. It went to #1 all over the world. It proved that Elvis could not only conquer rock and roll, but he could also beat the crooners at their own game. It broadened his appeal enormously. That gentle, harmonious intro is the sound of Elvis growing up, of him transforming from a teenage idol into a global superstar. It's the sound of a new chapter in his career beginning. Number 9, how did an Italian song become an American? Number 1, It's Now or Never is based on the melody of O Sole Mio, a famous Neapolitan song written in 1898. Elvis first heard the song while he was stationed in Germany with the U.S. Army. He heard a version by pop singer Tony Martin and became determined to record his own. The lyrics were written in about half an hour by songwriters Aaron Schroeder and Wally Gold after Elvis's music publisher called them with the urgent request. The song was one of Elvis's best-selling singles ever, selling over 20 million copies worldwide. The intro is grand and dramatic. A mandolin plays a tremolo, a fast, shivering note that instantly evokes the sound of Italy. A piano plays a powerful, rolling chord progression. And then Elvis's voice comes in, not with a rock and roll swagger, but with a full operatic power that no one had ever heard from him before. It's now or never. He holds the last note of the phrase, showing off his incredible vocal range and control. It's an intro that announces this is not just another pop song, this is an event. After his return from the Army in 1960, Elvis was determined to expand his musical horizons. While in Germany, he had been exposed to a wider range of music, including European opera and folk songs. Oh, Sole Mio was a song he loved, and he saw the potential to turn it into a huge pop hit. He played the Tony Martin version for his music publisher, Freddie Bienstock, and asked him to get new English lyrics written. The songwriters, Schroeder and Gold, worked fast. They came up with the title It's Now or Never, and wrote lyrics that captured the passion and urgency of the Italian original. The recording session took place in April 1960 at RCA Studio B. Elvis was in phenomenal voice. He was ready to show the world what he could do. The intro is a brilliant piece of production. The mandolin immediately sets the scene, giving the song an authentic Italian flavor. The powerful piano chords add a sense of drama. But it's Elvis's vocal that is the real star. He attacks the song with a confidence and a power that is breathtaking. The final note of the song, a high G, was a stunning display of his vocal talent. It was a note that most pop singers of the era wouldn't have even attempted. The record was a global phenomenon. It was #1 for 5 weeks in the US and for 8 weeks in the UK. It was his first post-Army #1, and it redefined his career. It showed that he was a true vocalist capable of handling complex and demanding material. That dramatic, powerful intro was the world's reintroduction to Elvis Presley. It was the sound of a king back from exile, not just to reclaim his throne, but to build an even bigger empire. Number 8. What's so shaky about this song? The distinctive finger snapping that you hear throughout All Shook Up was not in the original plan. Elvis started doing it spontaneously during a take, and the producer decided to keep it in. The song's writer, Otis Blackwell, has a different story about the song's origin than Elvis. Elvis claimed the idea came to him in a dream, while Blackwell said he came up with it after a colleague shook a bottle of Pepsi. The song hit #1 on the Billboard Top 100, the R&B chart, and the country chart simultaneously, a rare feat. The intro is pure nervous energy. It starts with just a hand clap and a simple repetitive piano chord. And then a shaky, almost jittery acoustic guitar strum comes in, and then Elvis's voice with a slight hiccup and a ton of echo, a well, a bless my soul, what's wrong with me? It's an intro that sounds like it's about to fall apart at any second. It's full of a restless, twitchy energy that perfectly captures the feeling of being all shook up. All Shook Up was recorded in January 1957 at Radio Recorders in Hollywood. It was one of Elvis's first sessions after his explosive debut year in 1956. The pressure was on to keep the hits coming. The song itself is a masterpiece of simple, effective songwriting from Otis Blackwell. The lyrics are a list of symptoms: itchy fingers, sweaty palms, a racing heart, that perfectly describe the feeling of being head over heels in love. The recording session captured a raw, unpolished energy. The band was Elvis's core group: Scotty Moore on guitar, Bill Black on bass, and DJ Fontana on drums. The Jordanaires provided the crucial oohs and ahs. The intro is brilliant in its simplicity. It doesn't hit you over the head with a big guitar riff. Instead, it builds tension through its strange, off-kilter rhythm. The piano, played by Elvis himself or by session man Dudley Brooks, accounts vary, just keeps pounding that one chord, creating a hypnotic, obsessive feel. Elvis's vocal is the key. He sings with a nervous energy, full of stutters and hiccups. The famous Sun Records slapback echo on his voice makes it sound even more frantic. When he sings, "My hands are shaky and my knees are weak," you believe him. The song was an absolute monster hit. It spent 8 weeks at #1 in the US. It was one of the biggest songs of 1957. It perfectly captured the feeling of teenage love and lust, that mixture of excitement and anxiety. The intro is the sound of that feeling. It's the sound of butterflies in your stomach. It's the sound of a heart beating too fast. It's the sound of rock and roll at its most elemental and most exciting. #7. Did a real prison inmate inspire this beat? The pounding, almost metallic drum beat in Jailhouse Rock was created by drummer DJ Fontana by hitting his drum cases with his sticks, not just the drums themselves, to get a harder, more aggressive sound. The songwriters, Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller, were famously locked in their New York hotel room by their publisher until they finished writing all the songs for the movie of the same name. Mike Stoller was so inspired by the idea of a prison band that he had the idea for the main riff while fooling around on an upright piano in the studio. The intro is an assault, a single loud snare drum shot, then a driving staccato guitar riff from Scotty Moore, matched note for note by a thudding bass. And then the full drum kit comes in with a powerful, relentless beat. It's not melodic, it's not pretty, it's tough, it's aggressive, and it's mean. It's the sound of a prison door slamming shut and a riot about to begin. It's one of the hardest rock and roll intros ever recorded. Jailhouse Rock was recorded in April 1957 at Radio Recorders for the movie of the same name. It was the moment when the Elvis phenomenon reached a new level of intensity. The song and the film's dance sequence, choreographed by Elvis himself, became iconic symbols of teenage rebellion. Leiber and Stoller were at the peak of their powers. They crafted a song that was a mini story full of colorful characters like Sad Sack and Shifty Henry. The music they wrote was just as vivid. The main riff is brutally simple but incredibly effective. It's a 2-bar phrase that just repeats, building a huge amount of tension before Elvis even starts singing. The performance by the band is incredible. Scotty Moore's guitar playing is sharp and precise. Bill Black's bass is a rock-solid foundation. And DJ Fontana's drumming is a force of nature. The sound they got in the studio was raw and powerful, with a huge amount of echo that makes it sound like it was recorded in a giant, empty hall or a jailhouse. When Elvis comes in with the warden through a party in the county jail, his voice is full of swagger and defiance. He's not just singing the song, he's living it. His performance is a tour de force, full of growls, shouts, and attitude. The song went to #1 all over the world. It was a cultural event. The film's dance number caused a sensation with its overtly suggestive moves. Your parents were outraged. Teenagers were thrilled. Jailhouse Rock was more than just a song. It was a statement. And that powerful, aggressive intro was the sound of the fuse being lit. It's the sound of rock and roll as a dangerous, unstoppable force. #6. Could Elvis play guitar? Love Me Tender was the first song for which Elvis received a songwriting credit, although he did not actually write it. The melody is adapted from the Civil War era ballad Ora Lee. The deal was that Elvis would only record the song if he received a co-writing credit and a share of the royalties, a common practice arranged by his manager, Colonel Tom Parker. The song was so popular before it was even released that it received over 1 million advance orders, making it a gold record before it ever hit the stores. The intro is simplicity itself, just a single acoustic guitar, gently strummed. It's a soft, warm sound. The chords are simple. The rhythm is a slow, swaying ballad tempo. There's nothing else. No drums, no bass, no piano. Just that lone guitar. It's an incredibly intimate and vulnerable sound. It's the exact opposite of the rock and roll energy of his other hits from that period. Love Me Tender was recorded in August 1956 for Elvis's first movie, originally titled The Reno Brothers, but renamed Love Me Tender to capitalize on the song's success. And Elvis had just exploded onto the national scene with Heartbreak Hotel and Hound Dog. The song was designed to show a different side of him. It was meant to prove that he could be a romantic balladeer, not just a wild-eyed rocker. The song was written by Ken Darby, who based it on the 1861 song Aura Lee. Darby, however, credited the song to his wife Vera Mattson and to Elvis Presley. Darby later said, "He has the most terrific ear of anyone I have ever met. He is a quick study." That's a musician's term for a person who can learn a song and a routine in a short time. The recording session was very different from his sessions at Sun Records. It was a Hollywood soundstage, not a small Memphis studio. The backing vocals were provided by a male quartet called the Ken Darby Trio, but the core of the song is Elvis and his acoustic guitar. While Scotty Moore was the lead guitarist who created the iconic rockabilly licks, Elvis was a very capable rhythm guitar player. It was his playing that anchored many of his early recordings. In the intro to Love Me Tender, his guitar is the only thing you hear. The performance is gentle and heartfelt. It sets the stage for his vocal, which is one of his most tender and sincere. He sings with a soft, breathy tone, a world away from the snarl of Hound Dog. The song was a monumental success. It went to #1. It showed that Elvis had a depth and a versatility that many of his critics had refused to see. That simple, unadorned acoustic guitar intro was the sound of Elvis showing his heart. It was the sound of the world's biggest rebel revealing his gentle side. #5, why did Elvis use a fake name? The iconic opening riff of Blue Suede Shoes on Elvis's version was played by Scotty Moore, who adapted it from the original version by Carl Perkins. Elvis never wanted to record Blue Suede Shoes, feeling it was Carl Perkins' song and that he shouldn't compete with his friend and Sun Records label mate. RCA and Colonel Parker insisted he record it, believing it was a guaranteed hit. The song was written on a brown paper potato sack by Perkins after he heard a dancer at a club tell his partner not to step on his new shoes. The intro is rock and roll distilled to its purest form. A single electric guitar plays a classic, bluesy, stop-time riff. The notes are bent and greasy. The sound is full of attitude. Then Elvis's voice comes in with it's a one for the money. The guitar riff repeats, answering his vocal line. There's no bass or drums yet. It's just a man and his guitar laying down the law. It's a sound that is both cool and a little bit dangerous. Blue Suede Shoes is one of the foundational texts of rock and roll. Carl Perkins wrote and recorded the definitive version in late 1955. It was a massive hit for Sun Records, the first song on that label to sell over 1 million copies. It was Perkins' signature song. In early 1956, Elvis had just moved from Sun to the major label RCA. They were looking for material for his first album. Blue Suede Shoes was an obvious choice. It was already a hit, and it was in the same rockabilly style that Elvis had perfected. Elvis was hesitant. He and Perkins were friends, and he didn't want to steal his thunder, but the label was insistent. The recording session took place on January 30th, 1956 at RCA's New York studios. The band was Scotty Moore on guitar, Bill Black on bass, and DJ Fontana on drums. The challenge was to record a version that was respectful of the original, but also had the unique Elvis stamp. The key was Scotty Moore. He took Perkins' original guitar part and made it his own. His playing is a little cleaner, a little more precise, but it has all the same bluesy swagger. The intro is a masterclass in rockabilly guitar. That opening riff is one of the most famous in music history. It's a call to arms for anyone who wants to rock. The way the intro holds back the full band creates a huge amount of tension. When the bass and drums finally kick in after the first vocal line, the song just explodes. Elvis's version was also a hit, though it didn't chart as high as Perkins's. It became a staple of his live shows for the rest of his career. While Perkins's version is the raw, authentic original, Elvis's version is the polished, supercharged blockbuster. And that iconic guitar intro is the sound of a rock and roll standard being born. Number 4. How many hits can one record have? Don't Be Cruel was released as a double-a-side single with Hound Dog, meaning that record stores and radio stations were encouraged to promote both songs equally. This resulted in one of the most successful singles in history, with both songs hitting number 1. The song's writer, Otis Blackwell, sold the song for a flat fee and a co-writing credit for Elvis, a deal he later regretted despite going on to write more hits for him. The background vocalists, the Jordanaires, came up with their famous bop 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 parts on the spot in the studio. The intro is unbelievably cool. It starts with just Elvis's voice singing "You Know I Can Be Found," his voice dripping with slapback echo. He's answered by the deep bass voice of Gordon Stoker from the Jordanaires singing a descending bop bop. And then the drums kick in with a lazy, shuffling beat. A bass guitar plays a simple, melodic line. The whole thing is incredibly laid back and smooth. It's the sound of effortless cool. Don't Be Cruel was recorded on July 2nd, 1956 at RCA's New York studio. It was the day after Elvis's controversial performance of Hound Dog on the Steve Allen Show. While that performance was all about raw, rebellious energy, this session produced a song that was the complete opposite. Don't Be Cruel is a sophisticated piece of pop craftsmanship. The song was written by the brilliant Otis Blackwell. He had a gift for writing simple, catchy melodies and clever lyrics. The song's groove is a mid-tempo shuffle, a rhythm that was becoming an Elvis trademark. The band Scotty Moore, Bill Black, and DJ Fontana play with a relaxed confidence. They are completely in the pocket. But the real magic of the intro and the whole song is the interplay between Elvis's lead vocal and the Jordanaires' backing vocals. Their smooth, doo-wop-inspired harmonies are the perfect counterpoint to Elvis's bluesy lead. The bop-bop parts that they added were a stroke of genius. It adds a rhythmic hook that is just as memorable as the main melody. The production by Steve Scholes is perfect. The use of echo on Elvis's voice gives it a sense of space and presence. The overall sound is clean and polished, but it still has a ton of soul. It was a sound that was irresistible to radio programmers and record buyers. The single Don't Be Cruel, Hound Dog, spent an incredible 11 weeks at number 1 on the Billboard charts. It was a cultural juggernaut. It proved that Elvis was not a passing fad. He was a dominant force in popular music. And that cool, smooth, unforgettable intro is the sound of a star at the absolute peak of his powers. Number 3. Did Elvis hate his biggest hit? Elvis reportedly disliked Hound Dog, thinking the lyrics were silly. He was forced to sing the song on the Steve Allen Show while wearing a tuxedo and singing to a basset hound, a moment he found deeply humiliating. The version of the song that Elvis recorded was not based on the original 1952 blues version by Big Mama Thornton, but on a comedic, sped-up version he heard a Las Vegas lounge act called Freddie Bell and the Bellboys perform. It took 31 takes to get the angry, aggressive version of the song that was finally released. The intro is a declaration of war. A rapid-fire series of snare drum hits from DJ Fontana, then a barrage of chaotic, clanging rhythm guitar and hand claps. And then Elvis's voice, snarling and full of contempt. You ain't nothing but a hound dog. It's not music, it's an explosion. It's the most aggressive and exciting sound that had ever been on a pop record up to that point. It's pure, untamed, rebellious energy. Hound Dog was recorded on the same day as Don't Be Cruel, July 2nd, 1956. The two songs could not be more different. Hound Dog was written by the legendary team of Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller for the blues singer Big Mama Thornton. Her original version is a slow, grinding blues, a woman telling off a no-good man, Elvis's version is something else entirely. He took the basic structure of the song and turned it into a high-speed rock and roll anthem. The story goes that during the recording session, he was still angry about the Steve Allen Show incident. He channeled that anger and frustration into the performance. He drove the band to play faster and harder. The session was long and difficult. They tried it at different tempos and different keys. Elvis was not satisfied. He wanted it to be wilder, more frantic. Finally, on take 28, they found the groove. The intro is a perfect example of that wild energy. DJ Fontana's drumming is a furious assault. The guitars are a wall of noise. The hand claps add to the chaotic, party-like atmosphere. Scotty Moore's 2 guitar solos on the track are legendary. They are short, sharp bursts of bluesy, distorted noise. They were unlike anything most people had ever heard on the radio. The whole record is a masterpiece of controlled chaos. When it was released, it caused a firestorm. The performance, the lyrics, the raw energy, it was all seen as a threat to mainstream values. But the kids loved it. It went to #1 and stayed there for weeks. It became one of his signature songs, the ultimate expression of the rebellious spirit of rock and roll. That explosive, chaotic intro is the sound of a cultural revolution starting. Or #2, Where Is This Hotel? Heartbreak Hotel was the first song Elvis recorded for his new label, RCA, in January 1956. The song was written by Mayborn Axton and Tommy Durden, inspired by a newspaper article about a man who had committed suicide, leaving a note that said, "I walk a lonely street." RCA executives hated the song when they first heard it, thinking it sounded nothing like Elvis's Sun records, and that its dark, gloomy subject matter would be a commercial disaster. They were wrong. It became his first million-selling single. The intro is dark and mysterious, a simple descending bass line from Bill Black played with a heavy thudding sound. And then a stark bluesy piano comes in, playing a simple repetitive riff, and then Scotty Moore's electric guitar, drenched in echo, plays a spooky descending lick. The whole thing sounds empty and cavernous. It's a sound that is full of dread and loneliness. It sounds nothing like anything else on the radio in 1956. Heartbreak Hotel was a huge gamble. Elvis had just left the small, intimate Sun studio for the big, professional world of RCA in Nashville. Everyone expected him to re-record his Sun hits or make more records in that same rockabilly style. Instead, for his very first RCA single, he chose this strange, dark, minor key blues song. The recording session took place on January 10th, 1956. The band was his usual trio, Scotty, Bill, and DJ Fontana, augmented by Chet Atkins on acoustic guitar and Floyd Kramer on piano. The key to the sound was the studio itself. It was a large, echoey room, and the engineer, Bob Ferris, used the studio's natural reverb to create the song's haunting atmosphere. Some Bill Black's bass is the foundation. It sets the slow, trudging pace. Floyd Kramer's piano part is minimalist and perfect. And Scotty Moore's guitar licks are like shards of glass, sharp and dangerous. Then there is Elvis's vocal. He sings with a desperation and a maturity that is shocking for a 21-year-old. He sounds like an old bluesman full of pain and regret. The lyrics about a lonely hotel at the end of a lonely street where broken-hearted lovers go to die are incredibly bleak for a pop song. When the RCA executives heard the finished product, they were horrified. They thought it was a career killer. But Elvis and his producer, Steve Scholes, believed in it. They were right. The public was fascinated by its strange, hypnotic sound. It went to #1. It was the song that launched him from a regional sensation into a national superstar. That dark, spooky, unforgettable intro is the sound of an artist taking a massive risk and changing the course of popular music forever. #1 was It Just an Accident. That's All Right was not the intended A-side of Elvis's first single that was supposed to be a cover of the country song, Blue Moon of Kentucky. The song was a cover of a 1946 blues song by Arthur Big Boy Crudup. The revolutionary sound of the record was created by accident when Elvis, Scotty Moore, and Bill Black were goofing around during a break in a recording session, and producer Sam Phillips happened to be recording them. The record was played on the radio for the first time by Memphis DJ Dewey Phillips, who had to play it 14 times in a row because his phone lines were overwhelmed with calls from listeners wanting to hear it again. The intro is the sound of something new being born. A fast, energetically strummed acoustic guitar played by Elvis. Then a clean, melodic electric guitar lick from Scotty Moore, and then the distinctive percussive slap of Bill Black's stand-up bass. There are no drums. The whole thing is loose, it's spontaneous, and it's full of a joyful, youthful energy. It's a sound that is not quite country, not quite blues, not quite anything that had come before it. It's the sound of rockabilly. The date was July 5th, 1954. The place was Sun Studio in Memphis. A young truck driver named Elvis Presley was in the studio for his first professional recording session. The producer, Sam Phillips, was trying to find a sound for him. They had tried ballad after ballad and nothing was clicking. The session was going nowhere. During a break, Elvis started fooling around, playing a fast, upbeat version of the old blues song, That's All Right. Scotty Moore on his electric guitar and Bill Black on his bass joined in. They were just having fun, letting off steam. But in the control room, Sam Phillips heard it. He stuck his head out the door and said, "What was that? Do that again." He had them set up their microphones and they recorded it right there on the spot. What they captured was magic. It was a fusion of sounds. Elvis's vocal has the phrasing of a blues singer, but the energy of a country artist. Scotty Moore's guitar playing is clean and melodic with a country flavor, but he's playing blues licks. And Bill Black's slapped bass provides the driving rhythm that would become the hallmark of the rockabilly sound. The intro has all of those elements in it. It's a perfect summary of this new sound. The acoustic guitar provides the forward momentum. The electric guitar provides the melodic hook, and the slap bass provides the raw, percussive energy. When Dewey Phillips played the record on his Red, Hot and Blue radio show a few days later, the reaction was instantaneous and overwhelming. The kids in Memphis had never heard anything like it. It was the sound they had been waiting for, even if they didn't know it. That simple, joyful, accidental intro was not just the start of a song, it was the start of everything. It was the big bang of rock and roll.